And also this morning, one of America's best-loved counterculture comics, George Carlin, is getting ready for his favorite kind of gig, a live, uncensored television special from New York, and we'll get a preview. Right now, it is 49 minutes after. He keeps working and working and working, and people keep laughing and laughing and laughing.
You will not hear me say bottom line, game plan, role model, scenario, or hopefully. I will not kick back, mellow out, or be on a roll.
Well, I don't know about that. Like it or not, George Carlin is definitely on a roll these days. He can be seen in his upcoming 8th comedy hour. It's titled George Carlin Live at the Paramount. And he's branching out into other directions, feature role Prince of Tides, also in a PBS children's series, Shining Time Station. Really a full plate to be sure. And George Carlin joins us this morning. Nice to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you, Joan.
No boundaries on this, right? Live, you can just do whatever you want.
Sure. Like all the other HBO shows, the only thing that's different is it's not taped and edited first. It goes out the way it happens that night.
Now, what are some of the areas you're going to be covering, some of the ground you're going to be covering?
Well, I have a nice opening piece about the Persian Gulf War, which is really more about male aggression and jock mentality and military. The whole tie-in with men's fear of penis size really is what it amounts to. Men are basically fighting one another in order to improve their self-esteem.
This is not that live uncensored show, George.
No, but that's a scientific word.
A scientific word, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, and...
So that's what that piece is about. There's another piece where I attack the environmentalists.
Attack the environmentalists?
Yes, and defend the planet. See, environmentalists to me are sort of bourgeois liberals who are trying to make the world safe for their Volvos and think the only thing wrong with this country is there aren't enough bicycle paths. And I think they're very narrow-minded and very selfish people. They're not interested in the planet per se as an entity, as an abstract idea. And the planet will outlive them, and that's sort of what the piece is based on.
Does that have anything to do with golf courses for the homeless?
No, that's a separate idea. That's an attack on the ruling class using golf as a metaphor. Golf being an arrogant game where the ball is only 1.5 inches wide and the course is 200 acres, which seems to me an arrogant use of the land.
Like, why do they need all that space?
Yeah, why do the pinheads need all that land?
And pretty.
Yeah. So I say build low-cost housing on these golf courses and let these people play miniature golf, you know. They have enough in their lives. Let them go to the putt-putt, that's all, you know.
Are you going to do some fun things with the English language as well? That's always one of my favorite parts of your show.
I love to play with the words and phrases that we use and hear every day and rarely look at carefully. The thing I'm doing is an expansion of an older idea I did once on airline language, which I did about 5 or 6 terms, and it's greatly expanded now. Originally I did deplane and get on the plane and terms like that. Well, now it includes every announcement you'll ever hear once you enter the airport until you've left the airport, on the plane, off the plane, and just sort of like picking apart each of those phrases as to why there's some fun and some humor in them.
Do people get nervous now talking to you? Oh God, he's getting his material right now as he's listening to me.
I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not.
I know you love doing this part of your career, but you also, you were great in Prince of Tides.
Thank you.
Now, do you want to do more acting as well? And if so, how do you make those decisions now as to which direction you go?
Well, I'm hoping that there's some really imaginative director sitting out in Hollywood right now saying, you know who'd be just right for the uncle,
are you listening out there?
Or the grandfather. Yeah, it's a matter of having done a lot of roles that are small but interesting in the Bill and Ted movies, and in the Outrageous Fortune movie, and a couple of other small things. I really sort of have to stop doing that. If I get some larger parts, fine, and I'd like to do that. And if not, I have to figure something else out.
And then you have a children's show now. Is there anything special that you have to do to try to communicate with children and get out of that live uncensored mode?
Oh, well, yeah, you know, all of us are made up of different parts.
Oh, here's a little bit of the show.
This is just another part of me. This is a chance to be small and to be a child again.
Because aren't you like a little, when you say
he's 18 inches tall in relation to these children that you see on the screen now. And his name is Mr. Conductor. And the show is very beautifully done, very carefully written and produced, and they're going to do another bunch of them, and I think I'll be doing some more later this year.
See, the more, I know that you want to get a major role, right, in a movie, and all these things expand what people,
yes.
You know, I mean, do I have to tell you that people stereotype?
Yes, that's what I'm fighting, because I really haven't done the acting. For 30 years, I've been only a stand-up, so you have to break that down.
They just think that that's all you can do.
It takes a long time to break that down, so, you know, if it's supposed to happen, it will, and I'll be happy.
If you could pick it, what would it be? Would you want to play somebody really...
a lunatic.
A lunatic? I knew you'd say
that. I think most actors would like to have, you know, the chance to do something where you just let go completely. Yeah, someone who has escaped and is out there having fun.
You've written about us, about all of us, for years. Do we still supply you with as much material or more material these days?
Media are wonderful, because just the one part alone of everything that goes up and down, such as prices, everything either plummets or nosedives or skyrockets or soars. And there are more. You have so many wonderful verbs for things that are like stock markets and prices that are going up and down. And then there's this thing about a meteoric rise. Meteors don't rise, they fall. And I've never understood why they say, like a meteor's going like that.
I'll remember that one.
Okay.
I will never forget that one, George.
Okay.
All right, I look forward to George Carlin live at the Paramount. Good to see you again.
Thank you, nice seeing you, John.
55 minutes after Good Morning America continues in just a moment.
Coming next, it's Live with Regis and Kathy Lee. Today, he's kept everyone laughing since the 60s. Hippies, yippies, preppies, yuppies. And now he's even entertaining yuppie puppies on kids' TV. Comedian George Carlin. Now, here's Regis Philbin and Kathy Lee Gifford.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. It's Wednesday, April 22nd, 1992. This is Earth Day.
Yes.
And another dark and gloomy day here in New York. Rain coming down. I don't know how many days in a row we've had this gloom coming. What do you think, 6?
Well, yesterday was nice.
Yesterday was nice, yes. And
It was
look
about 70 degrees yesterday,
And look who's
right?
back, everybody.
Just
Kathy
breezed
Lee.
right in.
Yeah.
Just gone a couple of days. Thank you. Thank you.
I will not kick back, mellow out, or be on a roll. I will not go for it, and I will not check it out. I don't even know what it is. And when I leave here, I definitely will not boogie.
Thank goodness.
Oh, God.
So funny.
He does some wonderful things with the English language.
Yeah, he's just so much cooler than the people that are cool.
Oh, I mean, he has a way of really dissecting what it is we're all using in terms of verbal semantics, you know? I mean, he's just dynamite.
Huh?
Pointing out the wackiness of it all.
And making us feel silly.
Yes, absolutely. One of the most creative, inventive, outspoken, satirical, and talented of all the comedians.
And
Mr.
nice.
George Carlin, everybody.
Thank you. How do you do?
Boogie, just a little.
I will not boogie, he said.
No, how are you? Hello, love, how are you?
So nice to see you, too.
George,
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you, thank you.
All these expressions that suddenly become a part of your vocabulary for about a week, you know,
Yes.
and then they're on to something
Yeah,
else.
and then you feel embarrassed saying them. This one, I heard that. And the guy said, I heard that. I said, well, congratulations. I was standing right here when I said it. That shouldn't be a problem.
But it is silly, isn't it?
Well, it gets silly, the repetitious. You know, it's a substitute for thinking, I think. You know.
Sure. Congratulations on being inducted into Broadcasting Hall of Fame
Last night.
Thank you.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's nice. That's good. They have a nice museum there.
Yeah?
The place is a very, very beautifully put together museum. It's the Museum of Television and Radio now. They changed their name. And
Is that on 52nd Street?
52nd, 25 West.
We just passed it the other day, right next to 21.
It looks beautiful.
It's a beautiful looking
It really
building,
is. And
yeah.
everything about it inside, and it's very high tech. There's computer. You know, you can dial up almost anyone in the
And it's
past.
open to the public,
It
you
sure
know?
is, yeah. It's open to both scholarly work and casual
And the
work.
rest of us.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Was there a time in your life, maybe there were several, when you thought you'd never make it to something like the Museum Hall of Fame?
Of course. Of course. I can remember, Brenda reminds me, my wife Brenda, we've been married 32 years now. We were walking down Chicago Street and Rush Street area when I was working nightclubs at that time. And I said to her, I said, we were walking along the street and people coming by, and I said, do you think anybody will ever recognize me, Brenda? and, you know, in a kind of a, like, sad tone. And she said, oh, yeah, you know, we'll just keep doing blah, 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 you know, whatever she said. And I mean, this week has been unbelievable here in New York. It being my hometown and everything, people are real friendly, and, you know, guys honk the horn, and, hey, Georgie, hey, Georgie! Hey.
Dig it.
It's been terrific.
You turn around and say, I will not boogie.
That's right. But I'm not going to rock and roll. Come on, you guys ready to rock and roll? Yeah.
Who were your heroes, George, growing up? Now, I suppose they're all in the museum, whoever they are. Guys like Jackie Gleason, you know.
Well,
did you like him?
Specifically, well, he came along a little later in my memory of things. I was attracted to Danny Kaye in the movies.
Oh,
No
yeah.
kidding.
Because of that incredible verbal facility,
Yes.
how fast he could sing those novelty songs, and the faces and the accents he could do. I liked Spike Jones records because of the anarchy. You know, just destroying a beautiful piece of music seems so nice to me. I thought, well, that's wonderful.
Yes.
The radical
But that can be done,
Yes.
yeah. The same with the Marx Brothers, whom I loved because they would move through a hotel lobby and it just was not the same. and people would tolerate them. That's what I noticed. The people in the lobby were all in tuxedos and everything. They would be coming through setting things on fire and shooting ducks, and the people would just a little of this is all they would do. Whereas normally you would call the police on these men. And I thought, well, that's great. They're getting away with that, you know. I'm sure it fueled me. And Fred Allen, because of the intellect, the early Steve Allen talk show, the early Tonight Show that Steve did, Jonathan Winters as I was a little bit older, as I was a teenager. So there were a lot of them, and Ernie Kovacs, Bob and Ray.
Great memories, huh? Some wonderful
Absolutely.
talent.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about comedy, it seems, is that each comedian has a very distinctly different thing to bring to it. The ones that get to a certain level, apparently. I mean, they just don't compare well. Each of them has something separate.
Is it a reflection of their own individual personality, do you think, that makes them different from the next guy?
Sure, and the package of gifts that they have. Some are very physical, some cannot be physical, some write beautifully, can't write, some can't write at all, but they can deliver things beautifully. Some have, you know, verbal flexibility, they can do things with their voices, and it just sort of depends on what your package is. Like Cal Burnett is such a terrific sketch comic, but she doesn't do stand-up written, you know, her own stuff.
What's your favorite part of comedy? Do you enjoy writing for yourself and doing that monologue up there in one?
Yeah, well, that's who I am. See, at the risk of sounding a little grand about it, but I take my work seriously. I try not to take myself as seriously as can happen to you.
Yeah.
But I think of myself as an artist because I take things in and I feed them back in my version. I sort of reinvent the world for you and give you my version of it. And so my pride comes from the ability to sustain 32 years and to do 8 one-hour stand-up shows and to be able to crank out this material, some of it better than others, probably, but still most of it at a level I'm proud of. So that's the thing that makes me happy, that I can invent and feed my own needs on stage.
But George has always been an observer, and I'm not kidding. Now, years ago, when I was doing AM Los Angeles, we spent a week at Caesar's Palace, and we were doing the show live every morning right by the pool, and during a commercial or something, I kind of wandered back through the audience.
As you are wont to do.
As I am wont to do, and here I discover a guy in a blanket. He was all curled up. He was sitting in a chair, but he was observing. Didn't let anybody know he was there. He just wanted to see the show. Do you remember that?
I remember that week. I don't remember the incident.
And so I finally brought you out, and there then we conducted a little interview right there. Yeah, there we are, George.
Those white Irish arms.
The whitest, George.
Yeah, by the way, you know how you can tell when you're getting old? The elbow test. The elbow flesh.
The elbows are the worst.
If you go like this, and it stays that way. If it stays that way, then you're on your way. You're on your way out.
Downhill from there.
He's absolutely right.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody flunks the elbow test over 40.
Right.
We'll be right back in a moment.
That's all your house is. It's a place to keep your stuff while you go out and get more stuff. Sometimes you gotta move. Sometimes you gotta move. You gotta get a bigger house. Why? Too much stuff.
That's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah. That's one of George's famous routines. How many routines? Now, you files must be bulging. I mean, you must have hours of stuff at this point. Stuff. Here, I said it again.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to have to move, George.
There is more in the file undone. far more than there is that I've done. Because when they get done, I take an HBO transcript and I bind it in leather and it goes on the shelf, and that's my tangible evidence. You know, I can say, that's what I did.
But never to be repeated.
Well, I don't mind using something again for a particular purpose. Like the stuff thing is so universal. It's such a broad thing that everyone has. Well, I rewrote it and I expanded it, but I haven't memorized it yet. So it's sitting there waiting for someday when I want to kind of put it in the show as an adornment.
Right.
But my drive is to have a new hour, And so I'm always digging in that file and taking out things that seem ready. There's a certain, something about a subject. As I look at it over the months or over the years and see it in the file and it goes through the neural paths again, I finally say, yeah, I'm feeling more like that one's ready. It takes on a kind of a meaning, and I say, good. So the next show is beginning to form in my mind.
Well, this is Saturday night. We got the next
Saturday's
show, right?
the 8th
Hopefully
show.
you're ready
That
for
one's
this
done. I mean, I got that stuff down pat.
HBO special, which incidentally will be done live from the Paramount Theater here in New York City.
That's right.
Now that's a whole, you're used to doing live, but are you used to doing a special live?
I only did one out of the 8 shows. I did the 6th one in 1988. We did it live from Union City, New Jersey.
So kind of
I remember that
though.
one.
Yeah, that
with the chain link fence behind
yes,
it? Yes,
the industrial side, and we had the smoke coming out as if we were electing a pope.
Very effective.
Yeah, that was the Park Theater, great little theater in Union City. I love the energy in the East. The audiences have a cohesion. There's an energy they bring to the theater that in the West is just a little bit dispersed. There's something, they know they're in the theater, but they think maybe I might be at the beach. You know,
There's more
no
angst
focus.
here on the list, huh?
Yeah.
Well, what is coming up then? I mean, you're observing life at this point. What is the next thing you can foresee being a part of your comedy routine?
Well, I've found that there's a piece I'm doing at the end of this show called, well, I can't tell you the name because it has an obscene or profane word in it. I don't really think they're obscene, but they are profane. It's about the environment, but it's an attack on environmentalism. And it's a defense of the planet at the same time. I kind of divide the two things. And I've found that the piece has more of a performance art flavor to it, because it's not a thing that depends on a laugh every 10 seconds or so, which comics need all the time. It's sort of a risk-taking thing because it lets the audience stay silent and just kind of absorb these ideas, and it engages them in a different way. Instead of engaging their humor, it engages, you know, I'm asking them to take a flight of fancy with me. And imagine if this were a fair argument, I'm asking them. And they like it. And I'm getting encouraged by the idea that I don't have to beg for laughs to be successful on the stage. And I think that is sending me in a direction I might want to do more with.
It takes a lot of confidence not to get that laugh every...
And everything happens in transition and slowly for me. I don't ever push and say, now I'm this. I say, look what's happening now. Look where I'm going. And
so zen.
Hope they come with me,
But in the meantime, the acting career is booming. I mean, you were terrific in Prince of Tides,
Thank you.
George.
I felt good about it.
We looked for a picture of you in that. We couldn't find it, but there's Streisand.
No, they didn't have a lot of pictures of me.
Now, I remember when you came and told us that you were going to be a part of her movie.
That's right.
And we were both really in awe. What was it like working with her?
I didn't notice. You know, people ask that question, and there's this sort of expectation in the question that there's some kind of a real hot answer in the offing. But I didn't notice anything unusual or different about the way Barbra Streisand worked. She's very meticulous. She comes in with all her ideas together. She is in charge.
Totally prepared.
But there was certainly nothing unpleasant, you know, on the set or anything dictatorial or any of these kind of things that you hear. It was a good experience. I don't think she took me very seriously as an actor, but I think I gave her more and surprised her in what I did. Because I asked her, I was looking for a compliment, and that's usually when you get shot down.
George, you know better than to ask for a compliment in this business from anyone.
But it was a sneaky way I asked, you know. I said, why did you think of me? Because I read for her in her apartment and got the part.
Legitimate question.
So I said, why did you think of me originally for this? Hoping she would say, well, I saw you in Outrageous Fortune or something. And she said, well, I thought it would be a good part for a stand-up comic. And I went,
But it was
all right. I mean, it was a momentary hurt. She didn't mean it, but I gave her more than she was expecting.
Absolutely.
Because I brought something to it that was deep inside me, which was a loneliness was the quality I tried to give the man.
And yet there was a sweetness and a caring about
he was. The nice thing about it is, although he was effeminate, and there are arguments to be made for and against the portrayal of effeminate gays, the behavior didn't signal a bad person.
Exactly.
He was a wonderfully positive character, and I think that behavior should be seen in association with positive characters so that the behavior isn't punished for imaginary evils or bad things that people have brought to this discussion or this
what
argument.
was the reaction from the gay community about this portrayal?
I didn't hear a big explosion or uproar about it. I'm sure there were individuals who had not heard my argument on it, or may not even accept it if they did hear it, who didn't feel right about it. But I have worked before with GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, and I changed a couple of things in my last HBO show before it went out into the stores and before it went out on the album, because they made a very good point to me about the language I used. I felt that because my attitude was pure and I had no homophobia in me, that I was okay, and I could say something in a joke and get away with it because my credentials were cool. But they made a very good argument to me that, well, but kids don't know all that. And a kid who's 16 or 17 and maybe in one of these kind of like, you know, gay bashing moods or gangs or one of these elements where he hears that all the time will take that from you as an okay.
Sure.
So I said, you're right, and I did clear that, changed that. I thought it was an intelligent time. I wouldn't change for just anybody who says, I don't want you to talk about gypsies like that. But a good argument.
They had a really good argument.
A good argument is a good argument. And people are in danger. Gays are in danger on the street. So.
Well, all right, it's this Saturday night. It's going to be live from the Paramount Theater. Now, what about an audience? Can they...
Yeah, they can buy tickets because we still have a few hundred left. It's a big place.
It is a
big
big
holds about
house.
5,500.
Well, you're going to be dynamite,
and
George.
I'm just excited because it's my hometown.
That's it. George Carlin came home.
Cody's favorite show is Shining Time Station.
Thanks.
Mr. Conductor.
All right.
I love it.
It's a terrific show.
I'll be back with our twin triathletes in a moment.
Gotti. It's Late Night with David Letterman. Tonight, George Carlin, singer Al Green, and actress Christine Lottie, plus Paul Schaefer and the world's most dangerous man. And now, a man who can smell a pony a mile away, David Letterman.
Let's bring out our first guest, a very funny man. And the important thing, if you're going into the world of comedy, the real test is how long can you be funny? And he's been funny for a long, long time. He's been performing stand-up for the last 30 years. He has a brand new special, George Carlin Live at the Paramount. Live at the Paramount. That takes place Saturday night, a live event right here in the city. You can see it on HBO. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome George Carlin. George. What happened?
I had an ovary removed.
Oh, no, you didn't.
No?
No, you didn't.
Old hide-and-seek injury? All right.
Good.
I'm really okay.
Good to see you. This is very exciting for me, and I guess even more exciting for you for a couple of reasons, but I know you always enjoy coming back to New York City.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, hometown. Doing this show from my hometown, that's great.
Yep.
And I love the restaurants. You know, it's got the best restaurants.
30,000 different restaurants in New York City.
But only a few worth mentioning on the David Letterman show.
All right, let's hear them.
Vinny's House of Toast.
Oh.
I go back all the time. Vinny and his lovely wife, Dawn, God bless her, they've come up with over 300 ways to serve toast.
Uh-huh.
And my favorite is, well, I like the roast toast. It's nice. It sounds... But give me a toast sandwich.
Yeah.
You know?
How do they handle that? What do they do with that?
I like the toast sandwich on toast.
Uh-huh. So you get it toasted.
Yeah, I get it. But you can get the toast sandwich on plain bread. It's just as good.
Yeah.
Just as good.
Get it on a bun, maybe?
Toast on a bun. Yeah, because the toast sticks out a little from the bun. The contour is being different. So I'm over there. That's usually in the afternoon, because that's light fare.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Nighttime, trying to
to impress somebody.
Yeah.
Special place in Soho, south of Houston, down in Soho.
Hey, you know this town.
Well, I learned some of this stuff when I was out in California. Nice place called Bombs Away. Have you ever been in there?
No, Bombs Away. Is it a new place?
Very interesting. Bombs Away. The patrons sit on the ground floor. Kitchen is on the balcony. And when the chef, when they've finished cooking your food, they toss it off. Bombs away!
Oh, is that right?
You know? And you got to catch it on your plate. Real easy with like a T-bone steak, soup, a mess.
Oh, no, yeah.
Peas, no fun peas.
No, peas are no
nice
good.
Thing, if it lands on the floor, on the house. The food is free if you don't catch it in your plate.
Wow. You know, I hadn't heard of that place.
Yeah, I love the city.
Yeah.
And there's one place that's closed now, unfortunately. It was a restaurant for the blind, and they had to close because of the incredible cleaning costs each night, you know. But I haven't been there a long time, and they tell me it's closed.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about, now, of course, you do the stand-up comedy, and you've been doing it. And like I said, I think it's a real tribute to your ability and your appeal that you could have a great career for this long, certainly.
Sure.
But you do other things. You were in the movie The Prince of Tides.
Yes, it was. I was in Prince of Tides. I do Shining Time Station, a children's show.
Now, tell me about that, because...
Thank you. Thank you.
That, by the way, is the dictionary definition of a smattering of applause.
Yes, it is.
You won't get a better example than that.
That's the one they have right on that same page.
Yeah. Tell me about the PBS show.
Well, that's a children's show called Shining Time Station. I play a little fellow called Mr. Conductor. More than a smatter. That was a sprinkling. That was a little better even. But you know what? I'm in town for another reason, and that has to do with my career. Like the Madonna deal, you heard about Madonna.
Oh, $60 million blockbuster deal.
Mine is not quite that much money involved, more $35,000, but we're pulling together all of my many show business interests under one roof.
Oh, great, yeah.
And we're going to send it out that way. First of all, I represent people now. We're representing other artists.
So you're in the management business?
That's, well, sort of, yes. Yeah. First, I got the first guy ever wrote a novel in chapstick. Okay? You heard, sometimes they say this is a good summer book, this is a good winter book.
The original manuscript actually executed in chapstick. Wow.
Yeah. And something Paul and the guys would be interested in, we have a guy who plays classical music on the bugle. It takes a hell of a lip, but he's good.
Put him together with a chapstick guy, maybe.
Maybe as a duo,
prolong their careers.
Yes. See? That's why you're here.
I'm an idea guy.
That's why you're here. A band. I'm representing a band from England, heavy metal band that's called So Long Mate. And during each performance, one of the members of the band is killed by the rest of the band.
Beaten to death or something?
Yeah, beaten to death. And the nice thing is the sound of the band is constantly changing. Open auditions all year round.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad things are going so well.
I know, and I'm very excited about it. Yeah. Well, aren't we supposed to be excited about these
we're in
things?
show business.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting.
It's a challenge. It's a stretch. It's a dream come true.
Good people to work with.
Yeah.
Good people to work with.
We have to do one little commercial here, and then George will be right back. You guys, every night the band sounds great. The best part of the show, night in and night out, is the band. You sound great. Thank you. And then when David Sanborn comes in, you sound like a great band with a saxophone. Is that a compliment?
I couldn't have put it any better.
What I'm trying to say, it sounded terrific.
Thanks.
Yeah. George Carlin is here, and Al Green. Man, now that's going to be good,
That's going to be a number.
And Christine Lottie. George, what else should we talk about? Let's talk a little bit about things that you've been noticing for your stand-up act, things you notice just in life, things about the news, science, politics, language.
Language. Well, you know, it's fun to look closer at things we say and think nothing of. Fine and dandy. You guys say this to you?
Fine and dandy.
Yeah, you say to a guy, how are you? He says, fine and dandy.
Exactly.
Not me.
Yeah,
I never say it, I'm fine and dandy. You know why?
No.
I'm never both of those things at the same time. Sometimes I'm fine, not dandy.
I see.
Close to dandy, approaching dandy. In the vicinity of dandy, not dandy.
Yeah.
Occasionally, rarely, I'm dandy. Really dandy. Not fine.
Not fine, no.
One time, 1965, August, for about an hour, I was both fine and dandy.
Wow.
At the same time. Nobody asked me how I was.
Yeah, well.
I got a lot of these.
What else?
Down the tubes.
Down the tubes.
People say that.
Fairly modern term.
The country is going down the tubes.
Yeah.
What tubes? Have you seen any tubes?
No.
Where are the tubes? Where do they go?
I don't know.
And how come there's more than one tube? Wouldn't one tube be fine for one country? Does every state have to have its own tube now? Kentucky has a tube, North Carolina has a tube. And then I wonder about, you say down the tubes, I think one tube would be fine, you know, now I'm forgetting the ending of this. You know? Great. I can remember the ending.
So you yourself
I know
have gone down the tubes.
I did.
Yeah.
If you had only one tube, it would have to be so big, people would have noticed this tube by now. Some guy would have said, Joey, look at the big tube over there.
Yeah.
You never hear that.
No.
You know why? No tubes.
No tubes, no. Yeah.
Down the pike.
Down the pike. Now, that's an old one, I think. Yeah.
Meanest guy ever came down the pike. What about guys who came up the pike? Not everybody lives north of the pike, you know. Some guys have to come up the pike, and they're really mean.
Right.
Because they never get mentioned.
Yeah.
How about guys who don't use the pike? The guy comes on Amtrak. You know, he's the meanest guy ever arrived on Amtrak. Doesn't sound right.
No.
Doesn't sound right. Takes the cake. Where does he take it? Where do you take a cake? To the museum?
Down the tube?
Down the tube.
Down the tube, sure.
That's why he's here.
Or up the pipe or down the pipe.
That's right. You know where I would take a cake? I would take a cake to the bakery and see the other cakes. Wouldn't that be nice? How come they don't take the pie?
Yeah.
Pie is easier to carry than a cake.
Yeah.
Easy as pie.
Easy as pie.
Cake is easy to carry, too.
Yeah.
Piece of cake. Huh? That's the way I make my living.
You know, you get a little nervous. A person can get a little nervous observing that, and you think to yourself, maybe George isn't taking the medication because it can go on and on and on.
He's doubled up.
Yeah. Well, no, not anymore. No. Now, the big show is Saturday night. Now, let's explain this. It will be live.
It'll go out live on HBO satellite, or whatever you call that stuff they do now. Like that grasp of technology.
But it's at the Paramount Theater. It's like 5,000, 6,000 seats.
About 5,500 seats, something like that.
Do people pay to go in there and see the show?
Yeah, they'll see that, and they'll also see, then I do an extra half hour, you know, and I want to cheat them, and I got an opening act, I want to cheat them, so they see a real show, but for an hour, it's broadcast, and then we tape it, of course, and then cut it up and fix it up so that the replays are better than the live one.
This is like a big deal, though. This is a lot of pressure doing a live broadcast.
Yeah, a bit, but once you get started, I think you forget it. We did one 2 years ago live. It was all right.
A lot of fun.
I threw up once, and it was okay.
All right. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And good luck with the big show.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.
George Carlin, kid. We'll be right back.
It was my habit to have a buzz in life. I had my several beers and my half a joint or whatever I wanted. So I lived all of my life like that.
I was small-busted growing up, and everybody around me wasn't. My sister was big, my mother was, because my father happened to be a breast man, and he made me feel uncomfortable about my own body.
Hi, I'm John Tesh. Welcome to One on One. Today we visit with two people who are used to making other people laugh, but who have had some pain of their own. George Carlin began his career as a DJ at KJOE Radio in Shreveport, Louisiana. But it was his routines playing Al Sleet, the hippy-dippy weatherman in the 60s, that made him one of the hottest comedians in the business. George has tried his hand at acting, making a number of feature films, including this year's Prince of Tides. But he has also had to deal with 2 heart attacks and cocaine addiction. And Jenny Jones, she sang backup for Wayne Newton before she decided to try comedy. She called her act Girls' Night Out and got such rave reviews that she became the opening act for Dionne Warwick and Sammy Davis Jr. Last year, she began her own talk show, and just this year, she has gone public with the tragic story of her 6 failed breast implant surgeries. Stay tuned for Jenny Jones and George Carlin.
let's take a look at the national weather map. This is a Canadian low, which is not to be confused with a Mexican high.
George Carlin's routine as the hippy-dippy weatherman was the beginning of a bright comedy career.
Low will break up into a series of smaller lows. One for everybody, man.
George Dennis Patrick Carlin was born in New York in 1938. A class clown, joined the service when he was 17. He became a stand-up comic in the early 60s with newsman Jack Burns. The pair was clean-cut, and the comedy was tame. One of their bits was a spoof of TV commercials.
Oopsie, Daisy. Oh, boy. Why, George, you bent over and picked that up like a 16-year-old boy. Well, no wonder. With my Playtex living jockey shorts.
Carlin went solo in 1962, and in '68 he made his acting debut in the Doris Day movie with 6 You Get Egg Roll.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi, Herbie.
Well, we're just about to close, but for you, tell me what it is you like, and I'll see to it personally.
But Carlin said after the film he realized he wasn't an actor. He began to change. His hair got long, and his material got rowdy.
That's what they tell you. Get on the plane. Get on the plane. F you, I'm getting in the plane. Ladies and gentlemen, George Carlin.
In 1975, he was asked to host the premiere episode of Saturday Night Live.
Why is there no blue food? I can't find blue food. I can't find a flavor of blue. I mean, green is lime, yellow is lemon, orange is orange, red is cherry. What's blue? There's no blue. Oh, they say blueberries. Blue on the vine, purple on the plate. There's no blue food. Where is the blue food? We want the blue food.
Carlin was big on the stand-up circuit, especially with the college crowd. One of his most popular bits was the one about stuff.
Everybody's got to have a little place for their stuff. That's all life is about. That's the meaning of life. Trying to find a place to keep your stuff. That's all your house is. Think of it. That's all your house is. It's a place to keep your stuff. If you didn't have so much stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You could just walk around all the time.
But by the mid-'70s, Carlin was heavily into drugs. In the early '80s, he had 2 heart attacks and was deeply in debt. Carlin and his wife, Beverly, worked together to clean up both their acts.
Hi, Tom. Hot-baked goods.
This year, George Carlin was back in the movies in the box office hit The Prince of Tides with Barbra Streisand.
You look fabulous this morning. I'm so glad you both got laid.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. My name is George Carlin, and I am a professional comedian, as opposed to the kind you run into at work all day long.
Carlin keeps the laughs coming. He performs more than 100 live concerts each year, and he has a new home box office special coming up. Carlin also has a new audience. He is Mr. Conductor on the PBS children's series, Shining Time Station.
Mr. Conductor, can I trace your outline?
Trace me? Will it hurt?
No, you just have to lie down flat.
But I'm not even tired. Oh, well, I suppose a little lie down will do me good. This is exciting. I've never been traced before. I can't wait to see it. I think I'll close my eyes, so I'll be surprised.
You were alone a lot when you were a kid, weren't you?
I was alone because of the circumstances of the family. My mother left my father when I was 2 months old in a kind of dramatic over the rooftops down the fire escapes thing into my uncle's car. Because my father drank too much, and when he did, he got mean. And he had been mean to my brother before me, who was then 5, and my mother didn't want it to happen to me. So my mother had to work, and so she was away all day. I was a latchkey kid before they had that term, and I kind of had a chance to invent myself, and I enjoyed my solitude. And I've always been kind of inner-directed and found a lot of things inside me to amuse me. Mother used to say, you can leave him anywhere. He can entertain himself.
Were you always entertaining the kids in school?
I had little stand-up routines by the time I was in 6th or 7th grade. I did little set things, and then there were people in the neighborhood I imitated, and I would make up stories about them. So I was always looking for, see, that was the attention. That was the father and mother missing. I was looking for somebody to say, good going. Look at this guy, isn't he something, you know?
What were your aspirations when you were in school? I mean, did you know, okay, I want to be an actor, I want to be a comedian?
Oh, yeah. I still have my 5th grade autobiography, which I think is a good time to sum up your life. And the last page is supposed to be what I want to be or my future, something like that. And it says, I want to be an actor, impersonator, comedian, announcer, entertainer, trumpet player. There's a need to have someone say, you know, look at him.
The 60s and the 70s were a time when a lot of people were using marijuana and alcohol. Was there a time when you were doing, using marijuana and drinking, where you thought that that was the only way you were going to get to be able to write comedy?
I was a pot smoker, beer drinker from my teenage on. We were very precocious about the discovery of pot in my white Irish neighborhood in the 50s, way before that was very common at all, as you know. In fact, it was judged to be alongside heroin at that time. And it was my habit to have a buzz in life. I had my several beers and my half a joint or whatever I wanted. So I lived all of my life like that. I did everything I did that way. So it was very natural for me to do the comedy that way as well. Everyone who's used pot knows that you can get into laughing jags and laughing situations, and you can see things that you don't see otherwise. So you can easily be seduced into thinking it's the drug. Certainly writers have felt that way. The classic alcoholic writers of this country and other countries have been seduced into that. So there's a tendency to think that way, but my answer would be, I don't think I ever counted on it that way. It was just how I lived anyway.
Were you ever afraid that when you quit that all the ideas would be gone, or your method for finding them would be gone?
No, and I never quit all at once. What happened to me was I don't use anything now of any type to assist me in any way, but I didn't quit things all at once the way so many people do. I tapered off. As these substances, so-called, became more burden than pleasure, I began to notice that. The cocaine got to the point where the recovery period was longer and worse, and it came sooner. The honeymoon on the cocaine lasted a shorter time, and the hangover, days, weeks, lasted longer. And pretty soon it got to where I couldn't have more than a little bit, and I felt bad. Well, that's not why any of us takes drugs. So I said, well, this is stupid. And I began to cut down, just by living. I just began to use less frequently, less amount, and it eventually disappeared.
It really is amazing to me that through all of this, your life traveling on the road all the time, the incredible ups and downs, and drug use and alcohol, you were able to get through that, and you're still married. What is it, 31 years?
32 this year, I guess it'll be in June, yeah. I've had a very lucky life in a lot of ways, and Brenda and I finding each other is one of those events in my life that I'm able to say was just very lucky. And it's lasted, I think, because we've both grown in our own lives, and we've always respected each other and kind of left each other alone. Brenda had an alcohol and drugs problem, so she did go in a program. Brenda backed my car through the lobby of a hotel in Santa Monica. She doesn't mind me telling these things. She laughs about them, and she's quite comfortable with herself. She does a lot of 12-step work with people. She does a lot of counseling with people. She manages to stay sober that way, which so many people do, you know.
What was it like for your daughter, Kelly, to grow up in this house?
Brenda and I, because of what we were doing to ourselves, we were doing the same thing to Kelly. At one time in Hawaii, when Brenda and I were crazed on cocaine, and we had brought my mother with us, Kelly wrote out a family manifesto. She didn't call it that, but she told us we were just going to have to start living differently. She was 11. She said, this has got to stop, this is the reason here, this is the round, you're doing this, you're doing that. And it wasn't too long after that things began to change.
When you voluntarily decided, and by yourself, decided to give up drugs and alcohol, you were clean, you had a heart attack.
Well, I had my first heart attack before I was finished all of that process of getting cleaned up. Yeah, I had a heart attack at a Dodger game. I'm a Mets fan. I was in the Dodger ballpark, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, because I was a Dodger fan as a kid.
You weren't thinking that when you were having the heart attack, I'm sure.
No. I ate a lot of hot dogs, had a lot of beers that night, and I had a lot of chest pressure, and I was very lucky again. Man, have I been lucky.
You've had a very, very successful life, and you made a lot of people, including myself, laugh very hard. Is there anything funny about the pain that you've had in your life?
Well, the whole key to coming through life for anybody is a sense of humor, especially about yourself and your predicament. I think people who lack a sense of humor, or at least a sharply defined sense of humor, have big troubles. I just think there is some life force involved in seeing the world not so seriously.
Jenny Jones is next.